E allora, buonasera a tutti, sono Andrea Cusumano, sono il direttore didattico di questo corso e questa sera abbiamo l'onore di avere con noi Deepan Sivaraman, artista poliedrico indiano. Francesco, scusa, puoi levare il microfono per favore, che sentiamo tutte le operazioni? Grazie.
Chiedo scusa.
Deepan è originario di Thrissur, in Kerala. Oggi insegna all'Ambedkar University di New Delhi. Noi abbiamo, diciamo, una conoscenza molto lunga con Deepan perché ci siamo formati insieme a Londra, abbiamo fatto tante collaborazioni insieme, abbiamo in comune una città, diciamo, con parecchie esperienze fatte insieme, che è Cracovia in particolare, dove entrambi abbiamo lavorato, la Polonia in genere per la verità, quindi Breslavia e Cracovia, dove abbiamo studiato entrambi il lavoro di Grotowski e di Tadeusz Kantor. Devo dire che io in quegli anni in cui insieme a Deepan mi recavo in Polonia, tornai in Europa con Mira Rychlitska, che era una delle attrici di Kantor con cui poi feci diversi spettacoli. Deepan ha trovato l'amore perché alla fine si è sposato con una donna polacca che è ancora la sua compagna, adesso hanno una bellissima bimba. Dicevo, Deepan è il fondatore e il direttore artistico della Oxygen Theatre Company, che ha sede appunto a Thrissur in Kerala, con cui ha girato il mondo, che è una delle compagnie di avanguardia e di sperimentazione più rinomate nel panorama teatrale contemporaneo indiano, così come del Performance Studies Collective, che ha sede invece a New Delhi, dove appunto dicevo oggi Deepan risiede e dove insegna da diversi anni. Dicevo un artista poliedrico perché Deepan è scenografo, è regista, è drammaturgo, è anche attore, di recente diventato una star del cinema indiano come attore, ma è anche un pittore e un disegnatore straordinario. E condivide, diciamo, un approccio ad un teatro che è fortemente influenzato o comunque caratterizzato dalla dimensione scenica e scenografica. Sarà lui ovviamente ad illustrarci nella molteplicità dei lavori che ha fatto, ha all'attivo più di 70 produzioni teatrali ad oggi. Come questo, diciamo, si incardina all'interno di quanto abbiamo sino ad oggi raccontato rispetto al tema della scenografia e della drammaturgia dello spazio, che come avrete avuto già modo di vedere, visto che siamo abbondantemente a metà corso ormai, abbiamo voluto rappresentare attraverso practices abbastanza diverse tra loro e che potessero in qualche modo non essere antitetiche, ma completarsi in una definizione e comprensione della pratica scenografica a 360 gradi, quindi non in maniera unilaterale. Deepan, I have briefly introduced you and also mentioned a bit about our relation. Dimenticavo che il luogo, diciamo, di incontro con tutti i lavori che abbiamo fatto, e dicevo anche il nostro rapporto con la Polonia, lo si deve a Londra, in particolare al Central St. Martin, dove entrambi abbiamo operato e studiato. So Deepan, I was saying just that I briefly introduced you, the reason why it's so important to have you in this course, and of course I hope to pave the way for future collaborations as well in the future. And also I mentioned a bit where we met and how we come to share at least a part of our journey together. And I'm very happy and glad that we have you here and that you can talk about your work, which I'm sure will be very inspiring for our students and for people who are listening to our lecture today. It's your stage.
Sorry, can you hear me, all of you?
Yes.
Yes, my network is fluctuating. I am not in Delhi. I am in Kerala, and I'm in a small village. And it's the monsoon here, and it's heavy rain. And sometimes we do have a bit of problem with the network here, and I'm using my mobile hotspot to speak to you. I hope that we will have a continuous connection. But in case if you lose me in between, I'll come back whenever there's a pause in between, okay? So just please bear with me and apologize for that, but we have to deal with it somehow. Thanks for that, elaborate introduction. That sounds very good, although I did not know what you were saying.
It's all true anyway.
All right. Yeah, so I hope all of you are safe and keeping very well wherever you are. I am, as I said, I am here in a place called Kerala, which is in the south of India. It's a small strip of land. I don't know whether you have ever heard of Kerala. This is towards south of India, where by the Arabian Sea, and I'm here now. It's a lockdown time, so we cannot really go out much. But this is a wonderful occasion to see you all through online mode, and I have this great opportunity to talk to you and also I hope you can hear me. If it's maybe Andrea, when I lose the connection, yeah, if you could intimate me that I am not online, that'd be helpful for me.
Yeah, we lost a few seconds of what you were saying, but otherwise we were following.
All right, okay, yeah. All right, fine. But that will be the case, so you have to really bear with me, yeah, with that situation here. I have, broadly kind of titled this class as Materiality of Space. I'll be primarily, I'll be basically, talking about my own practice and how I conceive space when I work as a director and scenographer, and also as an independent scenographer working with other directors. So let me begin this with this, this materiality aspect of space is with the one allegorical understanding of space as the fundamental to the performance experience. We have a long history of dramatic theater. I'm speaking this in the context of Indian theater generally, but when I speak about dramatic theater, the context is pretty much similar to Europe as well as the rest of the world. We know that dramatic theater, which is based, I'm talking about the text-based theater, ruled theater for a long, long period of time. Even now, if you go to major festivals and many of the theater houses, dramatic theater still rule the roost. In India, dramatic theater has a very short history compared to European theater, because India was under colonial rule of United Kingdom, which began towards the end of 18th century. So we actually begin our modern theater towards that period of time when British, in fact, brought Shakespeare to India.
We lost you again, Deepan, so if you can hold on 1 second.
Domando scusa, buonasera a tutti. Visto che è stata interrotta la connessione,
Calcutta so I was talking about Shakespeare coming to India.
Deepan.
That our modern theater began with the colonial history.
Hello?
I hope you can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we can hear you back. We will write
when British brought modern theatre in order to entertain British officers who were basically.
Gabriel, io approfitterei dei momenti di pausa, diciamo, eventualmente per provare a tradurre, se vediamo se riusciamo a coordinare in questa maniera, se sei d'accordo.
Certo, quando preferite. Io sto prendendo appunti e quando vedo che c'è un momento di pausa prendo la parola.
Per ora, per esempio, è sparito di nuovo, quindi magari sì.
Il professore vi saluta, spera che tutti stiate bene. In questo momento si trova in un piccolo villaggio nel Kerala, quindi la connessione va e viene, spera insomma che possa essere stabile. Parleremo oggi della relazione tra materia e spazio scenico, che è la sua materia, e di come il professore concepisce lo spazio scenico, come ha avuto modo di lavorare sui suoi lavori, ma anche con altri professionisti, con altri registi. E inizia dunque la sua conferenza parlando della dimensione materiale dello spazio, che è fondamentale per l'esperienza performativa. Quando parla di teatro drammatico, diciamo che quello indiano è un contesto molto simile a quello dell'Europa. Diciamo che il teatro drammatico ha fatto da padrona per un lungo periodo ed è un elemento chiave ancora oggi. Per un lungo tempo la storia del teatro drammatico indiano è stato legato ovviamente all'Inghilterra. Il teatro indiano infatti ha iniziato la sua esperienza e la sua concezione di teatro drammatico con quella inglese. Parlava infatti il professore delle rappresentazioni del teatro shakespeariano e solo in una seconda fase si è potuto focalizzare su un teatro drammatico puramente indiano.
Okay, oh, that's good. So that means whenever you have to take a pause because the internet problem will translate.
Exactly. We use the gap to translate. So make it efficient.
Yeah. So just in the last part, I was talking about the arrival of modern dramatic theatre to India, which has not long history as European theatre, because primarily I'm talking about Indian context at the moment. Towards the end of 18th century, when we were under British rule, British Raj, we call that, and Kolkata was the capital, not Delhi at that time. And the British brought first Shakespeare to India to perform from Liverpool in order to perform for British officers who were actually working in India that period of time. And they built proscenium theatre. And that was the beginning of modern era in Indian theatre. So ever since that, the written text, meaning the text-based theatre ruled modern Indian theatre here, right? The history of the text-based dramatic theatre, which has ruled a long period of time, and which is still the case in Europe too. That we know that when we talk about theatre of scenography, or object dramaturgy, space dramaturgy, all of those theatres still considered as the part of historical avant-garde, and they're not really a part of the mainstream theatre, right? So for example, when we speak about Tadeusz Kantor or Romeo Castellucci, those are big names in theatre of our time, but however, they're still considered as a historical part of historical avant-garde. They're still not being seen as the mainstream theatre, right? So this class has to be seen in that context of historical avant-garde, particularly in Indian context, where we have a dramatic theatre ruled a long period of time, and still here, theatre makers like me and my contemporary and still have to kind of fight for a space that the kind of theatre language we're talking about today, right? Now, when we speak about the space, I see space as a vessel. As a vessel, one can experience the performance. Let me make an allegory with the performative body. When we say that, how do you experience your life? You can experience your life through your body. The body is the medium. Body is the vessel. The moment the body disappears, the life is itself coming to an end. So body is the vessel. So we have a term called Kathapatra, which is a Sanskrit term, and is derived from a text called Natya Shastra. You may have heard of Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra is a text which was articulated by a saint called Bharata Muni in 2nd century AD, which is in fact as a kind of a alternative text to Aristotle's Poetics, right? So when we actually consider European theater, the theories of performance derived from this very text called Aristotle's Poetics of the times of Greeks. In Asian theater tradition, this text called Natya Shastra is very important. Natya Shastra meaning, Natya means performance, Shastra means science. So science of performance. It's a very elaborate text that deals with the very comprehensive, details about a theatrical art form. Now, in that form, Katha Patra meaning, Katha means story and Patra means vessel. Its translation is character. So how do you act this called a character? Is the body is the vessel. Body is the place where you can hold the character. So if you think that the body is the vessel where you can hold a character, space is the vessel where the performance can take place. So in that way, the space is very central component for the performance experience. Okay, so that is the fundamental premise we're going to begin this session. Now, what qualifies to be called as theater space? A theater space can be any place and could come from anywhere. It could be a street, a living room, a proscenium stage, or an arena theater ritual site, a lake, a river, a moving train, even that can be adapted to theatrical performance, for example. Is space an empty space? Is space ever empty? Space is never really empty because each space comes with its own set of propositions. In my practice, I have looked at the possibility of something called spatial dramaturgy. I'm sure you have heard of the term spatial dramaturgy. How space can be transformed into a dramaturgical tool, or how space would work as a metaphor rather than a premise where an action takes place. So dramaturgy, as I see it, is almost like an armature of a performance, grid of a performance. I don't consider dramaturgy only as a textual element. Dramaturgy has a larger, broader understanding, and I'm sure you may be having many discussion around this topic of how space and object can be also a dramaturgical tool in the storytelling process. The fundamental element I want to focus on here is what space can offer a theater maker and a spectator as the premise for a performance experience. I'll provide some examples from productions I have been involved, both as a director and a scenographer, to better illustrate how I try to make meaning out of this engagement with space and object. And by doing that, I'll try to explain what I mean by spatial dramaturgy and materiality of the space and objects. Now, material is easily understood there, but materiality is a more complex one. Why I'm saying material is an easily understood term is that in theater, when one is told that space is material or text is material, it is relatively easy to grasp what it means. We say that space or a text is a raw material to begin the process of making a theater. We have heard of this many times. But when Cole talks about the materiality of the space, that is a bit more complex as a term. So let me try to explain this further by bringing some examples of working with some various spaces, objects, and materials from my own practice. In scenography, locating the spectator is an important task, which is maybe the fundamental difference from a theater design in scenography. theater designers generally deal with this performative space? How you
Excuse me, Professor, I'm so
imagine?
sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind if I translate that for a second?
Please do, please do.
Sorry to cut in.
No,
My name
no,
is
please,
Gabriel, by the way.
please do.
I'll be your translator for the day. I'm sorry, lovely to meet you. It's such an honor. Ok, ragazzi e ragazze, signore e signori, cercherò di essere breve. Abbiamo parlato della storia del teatro coloniale fondamentalmente in India e di come l'influenza dell'Inghilterra e di tutta l'Europa sia stata fortissima durante tutto il corso della storia indiana. Alla fine del XVIII secolo, quando cessa la colonizzazione, l'India ha l'opportunità di concentrarsi su un teatro che possa in qualche modo rispecchiare l'identità nazionale, pur tenendo nel tessuto sociale e nella tradizione un fortissimo elemento inglese ed europeo. Si sviluppa dunque un'avanguardia storica importante che l'India considera parte della sua cultura e dunque mainstream. Detto ciò, l'India ha dovuto combattere moltissimo per affermare la sua identità. Il professore ci spiega che pensa allo spazio scenico come un vessillo, come un mezzo per vivere a meglio l'esperienza scenica. Il mezzo dunque per una fruizione completa della storia che vogliamo andare a rappresentare e a raccontare. Quello che viene considerato una sorta di testo guida, un po' la Bibbia del teatro indiano, è un testo filosofico che è largamente ispirato ad Aristotele. Ancora una volta c'è un grandissimo richiamo all'Occidente. Si sviluppa in questo ambito una sorta di scienza del teatro, cioè come si vanno ad applicare quelle regole che troviamo in questo testo, che è un testo guida al teatro. In questa sorta di vademecum, la traduzione della parola vessillo è in realtà personaggio, quindi capiamo quanto sia importante lo sviluppo dello spazio scenico, che diventa a quel punto un vero e proprio personaggio all'interno del nostro storytelling. Uno spazio performativo può essere qualsiasi cosa, può essere un teatro, un autobus, un lago, una piazza e così via. Ci invita anche a riflettere, anche quando pensiamo che lo spazio performativo sia vuoto, è mai davvero vuoto, lo spazio nudo ha delle sue peculiarità, delle sue caratteristiche. Come facciamo a sviluppare uno spazio scenico che sia funzionale ma che sia anche la metafora di tutto il racconto che vogliamo proporre? In questo senso la drammaturgia, quindi il testo, è spesso visto come un accessorio, diciamo tra virgolette, un elemento che fa parte del grande quadro generale che è il racconto in toto che noi vogliamo proporre al nostro pubblico. Quali sono gli elementi che possiamo aggiungere per arricchire l'esperienza teatrale del pubblico e rendere la sua fruizione il più completa possibile sotto tutti i punti di vista? Sono tutte domande retoriche che il professore propone e questo argomento è davvero fondamentale quando parliamo di spazio scenico. Ultimo concetto, parlavamo della differenza tra materia e materialità. La materia è un argomento facile da analizzare, mentre la materialità è un elemento sicuramente più complicato e di questo ci stava parlando il professore.
Posso permettermi solo di aggiungere una cosa, scusami Gabriel. Il testo a cui faceva riferimento il professor Sivaraman è il Natya Shastra, che è stato scritto da Bharata, e la composizione, diciamo, della parola è appunto lui parlava di vessel e character. Forse sarebbe, diciamo, in questo caso più appropriato tradurlo con proprio battello che non con vessillo, perché è una sorta di mezzo di trasporto, se vuoi, del personaggio. È proprio il luogo in cui il personaggio ha la possibilità di agire il proprio percorso. E infatti il professore aggiungeva che noi siamo abituati a comprendere la parola drammaturgia legandola prevalentemente al testo, e la caratteristica del teatro testuale, text-based theater, è quella a cui faceva riferimento rispetto, diciamo, al teatro postcoloniale indiano, ma introduceva, tema di cui noi abbiamo avuto modo di parlare anche in altri nostri incontri, il fatto che gli oggetti, lo spazio ed altri elementi, diciamo, che caratterizzano la performance teatrale più propriamente detta, possono essere considerati degli elementi drammaturgici, cioè degli elementi che aiutano nella costruzione drammaturgica e quindi non esclusivamente di carattere testuale, ma di carattere materiale, cioè il materiale attraverso cui la drammaturgia può essere costruita sono costituiti non solamente da materiali testuali, ma anche da materiali di carattere spaziale e di carattere oggettuale. Grazie.
Right. Grazie. Let me just show you one work because I'm going to talk about this, locating the spectator. I was telling about the, spectatorial, positions, meaning in the way that the spatial configuration between the performer and the spectator is a very a central concern for a scenographer. Unlike a set designer. A set designer often work with a given space, and in that space, as a designer, imagine and explore the possibilities of building a scenic space for the performance can take place. But, in scenographers, locating the spectator is very, very central. Not just the performer, but also the spectator. So I'm going to show you one work. I'll be showing a few other works too, but I begin with this one work. It's called, is an adaptation of Robert Wayne's 1920s expressionistic film, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So this production, I'm sure you are familiar with this film, a German expressionist film, silent film called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Am I right? I'm sure that some of you have seen it. So this is an adaptation of that film. And this was produced about 3-4 years back with my students and a collective called Performance Studies Collective in Delhi. We initially performed this play in a warehouse. And later we have built scenography when we start to travel with the show. Gabriel, would you please just translate that before I show it.
Okay? Allora, stavamo parlando della possibilità che ha il designer di esplorare la posizione dello spettatore all'interno dello spazio scenico, come anche della relazione che intercorre tra il performer e lo spettatore stesso. Spesso i designer si trovano a lavorare con uno spazio dato, il compito dello scenografo è anche quello di esplorare la possibilità di posizionare lo spettatore all'interno della storia. Stavamo parlando di un lavoro importante di un famoso artista degli anni '20 che andava a indagare questo processo e ci raccontava il professore che ha curato un allestimento in Italia in un magazzino. Io chiedo l'aiuto del professore Cusumano, forse per le informazioni più tecniche relative ai nomi degli artisti, forse, se possibile.
Sì, un attimo. Mi sentite? Pronto? Mi sentite?
Sì.
Sì.
Ah, ok. Allora, sì, la produzione è ispirata a Der Cabinet der Dr. Caligari, che è un film diretto da Robert Wiene degli anni '20, un famoso film, diciamo, di questi muti. Forse qualcuno di voi lo conosce anche per una celebre citazione in Fantozzi, che insomma era uno di quei film che venivano raccontati dal famoso mega direttore generale come, diciamo, film d'autore. È uno dei film più importanti, diciamo, del cinema muto, e questa del professor Deepan Sivaraman è stata una reinterpretazione site specific, in questo caso, della produzione. Quello che volevo anche sottolineare, perché qui, diciamo, abbiamo un difetto di traduzione nostra, che io però vi avevo già anticipato rispetto alla differenza esistente nell'inglese, così come nel tedesco, tra il set designer e lo scenografo. Nel senso che set design è una parola che identifica una professione, scenographer ne identifica un'altra. Noi in italiano non abbiamo questa distinzione, perché per noi lo scenografo è quello che in inglese si chiama set designer e lo scenografo dovrebbe essere, cioè lo scenographer dovrebbe essere uno scenografo che ha una interpretazione, diciamo, come dire, non esclusivamente o limitatamente legata alla produzione della scena. Infatti il professore faceva presente che il lavoro di uno scenografo deve in prima linea differenziarsi per la consapevolezza della relazione che instaura nello spazio con lo spettatore. Ricordate, anche questo tema l'avevamo affrontato, quindi non guardando soltanto a quello che avviene sullo spazio scenico, ma prima di ogni altra cosa rispetto alla relazione spaziale che si istituisce con il proprio interlocutore, che è lo spettatore.
Okay. And can you see the video? Share this cabinet of Dr. Caligari's, the text is there. Can you hear? So you see
Not yet. Not yet. We can see that you have opened up the sharing, but I can't see the film. I don't know if everybody is.
can you see the cabinet of Dr. Caligari's text?
It's the same.
Yes?
It's probably video is going to be very difficult. I think maybe photographs will be easier.
Can you see it?
Forse se prova a togliere la videocamera.
Maybe Deepan, if you cut off the camera and you leave only the sound of your connection, and so that you're taking less.
When I share the screen, now I'm sharing the screen. You can see the video.
I see everything black at the moment.
You only see the black. Sorry. I'm trying to share a video.
Can you shut down your camera? Maybe this might help.
Sure. Let me see.
Yeah. C'è qualcuno dei tecnici, diciamo, d'esperienza che ci può suggerire cosa possiamo fare per Francesco? Forse tu?
Troppa fiducia. Io ritengo che quello che ha consigliato Sara sia
I have information on screen and you can see the video. Can you see the video?
No, we can hear the sound, but we can't see the video, unfortunately.
You can try stopping the sharing and try again.
Restart. Maybe can you stop the share of the desktop and reshare it again? Let's see if it's going to work.
Okay.
And also you can maybe try not to share just the video, but to share the screen. Like when you click
the full
on share screen
with the windows.
Yeah, maybe
full screen. Okay,
I miss.
Yeah, I'm actually sharing the full screen only. Now you can see it?
No, it's still just telling us.
Oh, I see. Okay. I mean, I don't know that because I thought this is the way it is. Share screen.
We can see you.
Okay. Now once again. Okay. Now what about this? Can you see the video?
No.
No?
Unfortunately, no. Sta visualizzando lo schermo di Deepan, dice, però intanto...
Potremmo aggirare il problema se lui manda il video, il link magari a qualcuno qui in Italia e lo condividiamo per lui.
Deepan, if you send the frame, the videos to me or to one of the contact for the connection, I don't know which email you have or who has contacted you in order to connect. We can share it from here eventually.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a shame. Okay. Let me just give it one last try, okay?
Okay. So if you send it by WeTransfer or something like that, then we can download it and show it.
Yeah.
Which one was the film you sent? Was the Dr. Kalidaris or was another one? The one you sent earlier on?
No, it's Dr. Caligari, actually.
Barbara, scusami, perdonatemi se mi... Quindi noi abbiamo già il video del dottor Caricari che aveva mandato Deepan, o era un altro?
Andrea, ieri Deepan ha mandato un video che io ho condiviso con tutti i ragazzi, quindi non so se è questo o un altro.
Quello
perché
era
ieri...
Dark Pink, quella era la sua produzione.
Okay,
quindi un altro,
Sì, sì.
Now can you see it? No. All right. Then I would suggest one thing. One of you go to YouTube.
Yeah.
If you could just go to YouTube and type the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Deepan Sivaraman.
I'm doing that.
Try. Because
1 second. Trailer or teaser? Trailer.
Please. I mean, it's either. Can you just port one? Just,
1 second. Okay. I'm gonna share the screen. Lo vedete, ragazzi?
Sì, sì.
Sì, si vede adesso.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad that you could manage to see a little bit of snippet of that. I hope you have also seen that play which I have shared with you. If not, please do watch the play called Dark Things.
Scusate la connessione, ma insomma è un po' complicato, come avete capito. In India non c'è una situazione particolarmente easy in questo momento con il coronavirus, insomma.
All right. Shall I continue?
Put back the volume.
Hello, Andrea. I continue, okay? So the cabinet of Dr. Caligari installed a recent work, which was about 3 years ago, 3-4 years ago, which was initially produced. Hello. This was initially produced inside of a large industrial warehouse in Delhi, where the audience sits on one side and the performance takes place on the other. It's a large space, about 60 to 70 feet in length and about 30 to 35 feet wide. The plastered white walls emanated a feeling of being under construction. The act took place in an endorsed fashion, meaning with the audience entering through a large sliding metal wall and walked to the performance space to a gallery at the other end of the warehouse. The back wall facing the audience was used as the backdrop for a large film-like production. When we performed the production in part of India and abroad, we had to rebuild scenography in line with each and every space in the warehouse. So the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, as I said, is an adaptation of a well-known film. The play takes place in an imaginary magical world in the mind of a character called Francis. It oscillates between fantasy and reality. A man is telling the story of his past and what happened to him. Towards the end of the entire story, we realize that it never really happened outside of Francis' mindset. The imaginary in the production is the perspective of the protagonist, but it's not necessarily the only perspective. The narrative also weaves in the perspective of a dead man, Francis's friend, Alan, and also the perspective of Caligari himself, who is the master, the magician. It is also seen through the perspective of the woman who Francis says is his fiancée, Jane. The antagonist, Cesare, is a somnambulist, is a sleepwalker, who could possibly be another side of the protagonist Francis himself, and has an impact on how the narrative unfolds. We managed to layer this perspective in the narrative in such a way that it could reveal something new every time when we watch it. Would you like to translate that first?
Yes, thank you. Allora, abbiamo parlato dell'opera Das Cabinet des Dottor Caligani, il gabinetto del dottor Caligani, tratto dall'opera di Robert Wiene del 1920, l'opera tedesca. Il professore trae ispirazione da quest'opera del 1920 per il suo spettacolo. È un'opera che abbiamo visto in video, è abbastanza recente, di 3-4 anni fa, ed è stato un allestimento curato all'interno di un grande magazzino industriale a Delhi, diviso in 2 parti. L'idea era quella di proiettare il pubblico in un mondo magico, un mondo che fosse a metà tra fantasia e realtà. Il personaggio protagonista ci racconta la sua storia, ma è soltanto durante il racconto e alla fine del racconto che il pubblico si rende conto che i passaggi della storia non corrispondono alla realtà, non sono realmente accaduti, ma sono soltanto nella mente del protagonista, che è un sonnambulo e dunque per definizione a metà tra sogno e realtà.
Potrei dire qualcosa, è il momento, si può?
We have a question.
Gabriel, puoi tradurre per me?
I think Francesco has a question, if you don't mind. if you don't mind answering that now. Is that all right, Professor?
Yes, thank you very much.
Intanto volevo fare i complimenti perché lo spettacolo è incredibile, un'estetica davvero bellissima, mi volevo complimentare. Io volevo capire, è già il secondo spettacolo che vedo dove lui dirige, e vedo che ci sono diversi attori in scena, è proprio una sua scelta stilistica quella di lavorare con molti attori sul set, perché ho visto Dark Films ed è la stessa cosa, e questa cosa mi colpisce molto.
First of all, Francesco wants to congratulate you on your amazing work. He's very familiar with your work, and he's noticed that in your plays you use quite a few performers and actors. Is that a choice, and why?
The last part of your question, as performers, as actors, what was the last question actually, which I missed?
So the number of the performers and actors, it's very big.
Gabriel, the last part of the question I missed.
Oh, sorry. Francesco was asking, you choose to work with a big number of actors and performers. Is that a choice, and why? Hello?
Chiedo scusa, forse non era il momento.
Please carry on, Gabriel. Please, I just missed that part. Yeah. So the number of the cast is big, right?
Yes.
And the question was whether this is a choice.
Is that a choice, and why do you usually choose that?
I'm really sorry that we're struggling to communicate to each other.
That's fine. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Just give me the what was the actual question? I just trying to get that.
That Francesco's noticed that you work with a big cast. He was wondering if that was a choice, and why did you choose that?
Okay, I just disconnected my video. Maybe that would help. Yes. I mean, often the cast is big. The Caligari show was with less number of the team, but see, the thing is that we are in a stage when theater is really struggling in India. That we have a huge industry called Bollywood, as you know. And what they offer is a spectacular, stuff, as you know, that how Bollywood does business. And Bollywood is only one element in India. Actually, we have at least a 7 Bollywood industry within India. Maybe outsiders only know 1 Bollywood. So every region, there is a Bollywood. Bollywood is a Hindi, for a Hindi cinema. And for Tamil cinema, there's another Bollywood. For Telugu cinema, there's another Bollywood. So we make about 1,000 films a year. And these cinemas actually are the major entertainment for people. Theater people making a small scale of theater, just few actors in a small stage, is hard to attract people. As a matter of fact, we have to make something to actually capture the imagination of the people, such a way that no other medium of visual spectacles can match with what we can offer. So in a way that we have to have a theatrical language that can put a challenge to the filmmakers, that they cannot actually produce anything, the kind of thing what you produce. That's the only way we can actually attract the people to theater now, because otherwise there is no reason why they're coming to see theater. They're all sitting in a small theater with the small things happening. They would say, I'd rather go and see a big Bollywood film and spend 2 hours there rather than being here. This all kind of a storytelling with 2-3 people sitting and talking would not work. We cannot really capture the imagination of the people. In your mobile phone, you will see more imaginative thing from everyday WhatsApp forwarded video clips and TikToks and all can even capture the imagination of the public more than the theater. So we do not live in that sort of old era of theater where we can actually do a real truthful, real small scale theater where we can bring people. We may still get people to come and see the theater, but for a larger country like India, we need to make a theater that can actually put a challenge to the mediums, that the other side of the theater makers. So answer that question. This is as simply I can put it. I mean, of course, there are other reasons, of course, that is there, which I will talk about when I speak about my next work, which is really big theater compared to what you just saw. Let me just go back to the point I was talking here. So in this kind of theater, when I start thinking about my theatrical performance, the space of performance that I imagine must exist somewhere. That exists somewhere, meaning you cannot make a work without having any space in mind. For example, if you're making a production in a specific town, we will think about the available theatrical spaces, maybe the nearest theater, a regional theater, or a black box theater, or an open ground, or a particular monument site. So what I'm talking about, when you're imagining a theater production, you have to rehearse this performance somewhere. So when you actually imagine this theater performance somewhere, what you need is, you need to rehearse it somewhere, but in your mind, you have this performance, taking place in an imaginary space. The entire narrative that you built in your rehearsal space is triggered by the actual physical process of a site which exists somewhere else. So the rehearsal space, or space, as we call it, as a space that we imagine elsewhere. Only on the day of the premiere, the actual space really emerges. So during the rehearsal, this actual space exists in the mind of actors, director, and all other makers of the performance. I hope you got my point, that we imagine this entire space in our mind. It is not really there when you rehearse it, right? We imagine it. It's elsewhere, it's exist. Only the day of the performance, we enter into that space, we really see this is the real space, where is the actual space. Until that point of time, this space existed in our mind. Would you like to translate that?
Yes, thank you. Yes. I'm just going to translate your answer to Francesca as well, if you don't mind, if that's all right. Thank you. Allora, abbiamo detto, sì, è vero, aspetta che... Scusate, dove sono? Ok, sì, è vero, il professore lavora spesso con molti componenti del cast nei suoi allestimenti, hai fatto bene a notarlo. Stavo parlando della situazione dell'intrattenimento in India, quindi ti rispondo in questo modo. Siamo in un momento in India dove il teatro sta davvero facendo fatica ad andare avanti. Quando gli è stata offerta la possibilità di lavorare a questo allestimento, ha voluto lavorare su una produzione mastodontica. Perché? Perché, come sappiamo, l'industria del cinema indiano è veramente enorme ed è molto molto competitiva. È un'industria cinematografica che produce tantissimi film all'anno, e il teatro, diciamo, si dedica solamente a piccole produzioni con pochi attori. Dovendo sviluppare il professore un'idea che catturasse l'attenzione del pubblico e che potesse in qualche modo reggere il confronto con le grandi produzioni di Hollywood, ha voluto sviluppare un linguaggio che potesse in qualche modo mettere alla prova o dare del filo da torcere, per così dire, all'industria cinematografica. il professore chiede se posso andare a teatro a vedere una produzione mastodontica, forse allora posso fare concorrenza all'industria cinematografica di Bollywood. Ci siamo dovuti sforzare di creare qualcosa che catturasse appunto l'interesse del pubblico, che oggi è bombardato costantemente da stimoli. Qualsiasi tipo di immagine può vederlo tranquillamente anche da casa, dai loro schermi, dai telefoni. E quindi ha voluto provare a fare la stessa operazione con il suo teatro, con questo grande allestimento. Spostiamoci invece nella seconda parte, quando il professore ha ricominciato a spiegarci. Parlava sempre della concezione dello spazio performativo. Non puoi far funzionare un allestimento senza tenere in considerazione e in mente lo spazio in cui andrai a fare la tua performance. Cambierà moltissimo la performance se sarà allestita nelle vicinanze di un monumento, in un sito archeologico, in un teatro. La sfida, tra virgolette, è quella per il regista e per gli attori e tutte le figure creative coinvolte nel processo di immaginare lo spazio performativo in cui si andrà a rappresentare, perché come sappiamo spesso lo spazio dove si allestisce, dove si fanno le prove non è lo spazio in cui si andrà a fare la performance, che di solito si vedrà il giorno stesso della performance. Quindi l'idea di spazio scenico è molto importante che nasca prima ancora che fisicamente nella mente e nel cuore degli attori e del regista.
Thank you. So it's important that the idea it's important that the idea of the imaginary space created by the theater maker is transacted to the audience. Because when we perform in a regular theater, space which already exists with chairs, a platform, and the curtains and so on, there is no magic. The audience walks into the theater and sits down to watch it. They know that reality is being performed inside a black box for drama. The curtain raises and that illusion will exist within that space. And the audience space will remain on the other side. Their space is the chair, and they will see the performance through a box of frame. But me as a scenographer cannot imagine a performance space without imagining the space for the spectators. How do you place the spectator in order to make your work accessible to them is a central concern for a scenographer. This is very important. How do you place the spectator in order to make your work accessible to them is a central concern for a scenographer. And this is one of the main differences between a scenographer and a set designer. As a scenographer, I deal with the language of performance by making the premises, the site where the performance can take place. Of course, there is a process of producing a metaphorical, poetic space and not necessarily a representational space of a living room. At the same time, in the work that I do, I generally ask a few fundamental questions. Who is the audience? Why are they here? What are they looking for in theater? Are they seeking entertainment? Are they seeking enlightenment? Or are they looking for emotional engagement? Without having answers to these very fundamental questions, actors cannot perform. Actors should know who these people are. Can you translate that for me?
Allora, un altro concetto importantissimo è il pubblico entra a teatro e sa che vedrà una rappresentazione fittizia della realtà e dunque lo spazio entrando a teatro il pubblico occuperà una certa porzione di spazio che è lo spazio a disposizione, lo spazio preposto, lo spazio scenico. A seconda di dove andiamo a posizionare il pubblico, quindi nel nostro allestimento dove vogliamo fare stare il pubblico, starà in piedi, starà seduto, guarderà lo spettacolo di lato, di fronte, cambierà la percezione del tuo pubblico, del tuo allestimento, del tuo spettacolo. Quindi è un elemento da non trascurare mai, mettersi nel punto di vista dello spettatore e porsi sempre la domanda: come faccio a rendere il mio lavoro accessibile al mio pubblico? E una delle principali differenze, spiegava, come diceva anche prima il professore Cusumano, è tra il lavoro dello scenografo e il lavoro del set designer, che non si traduce automaticamente dall'inglese all'italiano, sono due cose diverse, e questa è appunto la differenza principale. Quando il professore inizia un nuovo lavoro si pone sempre queste tre domande riguardo il pubblico. Chi è il pubblico che assisterà alla mia performance? Perché va a teatro e qual è il suo scopo? Magari vuole divertirsi, cerca delle emozioni forti, cerca una catarsi, e quindi sono queste le tre domande che si fa all'inizio di ogni lavoro.
Thank you. Now I want you to see a performance in order to elaborate the points I made. Okay, I said why these people are coming to see theater. Are they looking for entertainment? Are they looking for enlightenment? Or are they looking for emotional engagement? Why people goes to theater? What are you looking for in theatrical space, right? So now I am going to show you a work, which is a play called The Legends of Gasak. Okay, I want you to look at this work, Legends of Gasak. I want again somebody maybe share it on a YouTube. I will type here the work, so you could actually maybe Gabriel or somebody can share the video on YouTube and then take a look at this work. Okay.
Per rispondere a queste domande voglio farvi vedere un video di una performance per discutere meglio l'utilità di queste tre domande che vi invito a porvi. Perché la gente va a teatro e che cosa cerca quando va a teatro? Il lavoro si chiama Le leggende di Gasak e chiede a qualcuno di noi, forse qualcuno dal Dipartimento Didattico, Formazione meno, di mandare in screen share il video che il professore propone.
Yeah, so I have actually shared this name, Gasak in the Idihasam, Deepan Sivaraman. Please type that in YouTube, so you will get this video, and please share that.
Questo è il nome del video, se lo si cerca su YouTube e qualcuno di noi può condividere lo schermo per guardarlo tutti insieme, per favore.
You can find a 7 minutes long video there, you can watch a bit of it. So if one of you maybe get that, and please share. Maybe Gabriel, you can do that. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, that is little small version of it. If you could actually look at the 7.1 version, would be better.
Questa è la versione più corta, ci chiede se possiamo trovare quella da 7 minuti, non da 2.
No, not this one, not this one.
Quindi non questa, ce n'è una più lunga.
Here, there, this one, yes, yes. I can't hear the audio. Hope you can hear the audio. No? You can share it with the audio actually.
Il professore dice non sente l'audio, spero voi possiate sentirlo, ma noi non lo sentiamo.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it's not possible to share the audio.
That's okay. You can then share the videos. Okay. I mean, I can give it a try from my system once again. Can I try?
Yeah.
1 second. Okay. Let me give it a try. The video I have. Can you see the video?
Yes.
You can hear the sound.
I can see the gallery actually, not the video. I can see a gallery of videos.
Okay, one second. I will share that. Okay, just hold on.
Aspettiamo un secondo che condivide quello.
I will share it. Just bear with me.
Abbiate pazienza un secondo, condivide quel video.
I hope you can see the video now.
Yes, yes.
So I'm glad that we could actually, I could show you that. Yeah, so this work is inspired by a novel called Legends of Gazak. And this particular novel, in fact, it's like Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. A text I mentioned 100 Years of Solitude because you may be more familiar with Marquez than the Indian author O.V. Vijayan. 100 Years of Solitude is, as you know, that it's a Nobel Prize winning novel, and it's based on a real place in Colombia called Macondo, where a banana plantation, the entire ancestral portrayal of the Buendia family been described in the novel. Similarly, in Legends of Gazak, the author, when he was 35-year-old, he went to live in a small village, and this place called Tasrak, and he lived there and he experienced the life of the people there, and eventually he wrote a novel based on the real life of these people. So what happened after writing this novel? This village has become very popular place to visit, because people travel there to see the real characters, the real paddy field, the real palm tree forest, and so on and so forth. So when we were making the performance, we decided to go to stay in this village, and with the entire crew of 40 people, there's 30 actors in the play, by the way, and about 20 technical crew. So the total number of the team of the theater company is 50 people. The 50 people travel to each place. I'll show you a few images of the making of this piece of work, because we travel from city to city, and we perform in an open air space. And I'm talking about the way we locate the spectator. So that was the discussion what we were having. How do you locate the spectator? How do you conceive a space in a language like this? You know, soil and the fire and the firework and water, how do you locate it? How do you come up with a language in this kind? So before I say that, I would like Gabriel to translate this, that in the process of this work, we went to the real village where the writer, in fact, based on this novel.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Please.
Did you set the show in the actual place, or did you go to the original place to do the performance? I didn't get that, sorry.
Yeah, in the process of making the play, we went to the original location, and we lived with the people there, and we returned. We spent our time with them, and we basically built the entire dramaturgy somewhere else, which is far away, which is about 400 kilometers away from the actual space. So, but what we did was, when we went to this village, we felt this play was written about 50 years ago. This novel was written, but we felt the people who lived there, they have been buried. They have no more. But the palm trees, the field is no more. But we felt these people are buried underneath, and it's more of like an excavation ground. Fossils start to speak to us. So the play which we see now is a space that looks like an excavation ground, where you excavate the culture, you excavate the life of the people. But this idea of excavation of a culture coming from actually visiting the real place.
That's beautiful, thank you. I'm just going to translate that. Thank you. Allora, è contento che abbia funzionato il video. Questo lavoro è ispirato ad un romanzo, appunto, che si intitola Le leggende di Kazakh, scritto circa 50 anni fa. Ha disegnato un parallelo, ha fatto un'analogia con il lavoro di Marquez, 100 anni di solitudine, che è ispirato e ambientato in un posto reale della Colombia. Allo stesso modo, questo romanzo, da cui lui ha tratto questo suo spettacolo, questo suo allestimento, è ambientato in un posto reale. Si è recato con tutta la compagnia composta da 50 attori nel posto originale dove è ambientata la storia, e hanno vissuto in quel luogo insieme a tutti gli abitanti del luogo per assorbire al meglio la cultura e l'atmosfera così fondamentale nella location specifica, e ha portato in tour, diciamo, questo spettacolo in tantissime location. Quando ha sviluppato la performance ha voluto appunto fare questo workshop per assorbire al meglio tutta l'identità del luogo originale, così importante per la drammaturgia originale. Torniamo invece a parlare in relazione a questo lavoro. Dove posizioniamo il pubblico? Ancora una volta questa è la domanda. In questo grande allestimento il pubblico era posto tutto attorno in un grande spazio, e quindi in che modo il pubblico interagisce, per esempio, con la terra, con la polvere, con le piante attorno? Si trattava di spazi scenici all'aperto, e qui ci siamo fermati. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see this image I'm showing now, right? Yes. So this is a show image of this play when we travel. So you can see the image. This is theater, and this is a temporary theater we built every time. Our company built this theater wherever we perform. So we built the audience theater along with the performance space. So we mostly spend about 10 days. So we take about 5 days to build this entire performative space. As you could see it, each show can accommodate about 1,500 people or 2,000 people per show. So and we do continuously 5 shows in one particular township. So we arrived there, our 50 members of crew, about 30 actors and 20 technical team, and we built this theater along with the audience gallery, and we perform. And once the performance is over, we shift that from one city to another city. With the first technical crew will go and the performers will arrive there after 5 days later. So, but the question I was talking about, locating the spectator. So here we see this many people gathered in this to watch this performance. This performance is about 3 hours and 30 minutes long performance, and no interval during the course of the performance, as a matter of fact. So it's almost like a long ritual event of 3 hours and 20 minutes, a big ritual event. And this performance it's almost like a ritual of calling the ancestors of the graveyard. So these people, as you could see there, when you unearth a land, we will have a culture slowly appear. So what is there as like this audience represented us, we the makers, because when the actors and the technical team went to the real village, we experienced that we looking at a culture, we looking at a people who actually start to speak in the midnight, emerging from the soil, because they want to tell the stories to us. Similarly, these people who are gathering here, they are also looking for stories. The stories of these Gazakians, these villagers, and we are the villagers who emerge in the midnight and tell the story. So some performance often begin at late night, 9 o'clock, and is end by 12 o'clock in the midnight and 12:30 in the midnight. So the entire villagers leave, go back, or the city people go back home about 1 o'clock after the 3 to 4 hours long show. So this is almost like a conversation between the ancestors and the local public, if you know what I mean. So this performance is very spiritual, because this play is about an ecology of a land, meaning the people who live in that land, the people who died, the people who deal with the nature, the plants, the snakes, animals, and water, soil, paddy field, banyan trees and coconut trees, all of it. It's an ecology. And this ecology is what recreated in everywhere we travel. So it's a likely rather bigger process of a performance, rather than we just go into a proscenium stage and a curtain raise and we watch a play there. It's bigger than that. It's a larger cultural engagement with the community of the people when they come and see the play. You can translate, please.
Thank you. Allora, guardavamo questa immagine che ovviamente fa riferimento all'allestimento dello spettacolo in questione, ci spiega prima di tutto un po' la logistica un po' impegnativa di questo spettacolo. Per allestire lo spettacolo durante il tour ci mettevano 10 giorni, la crew arrivava 10 giorni prima della replica ed era un allestimento molto lungo e molto impegnativo. Si andava a costruire on site, quindi nel luogo specifico, un teatro all'aperto che, come avete visto, conteneva circa 1500-2000 spettatori a replica. Si arrivava dunque con un enorme numero di tecnici e di maestranze per allestire lo spazio scenico. Diciamo, l'enfasi è stata posta sull'importanza spirituale di questo rito teatrale, che è più un rito teatrale che una performance. In questo momento noi vogliamo andare a rappresentare la profonda cultura di un popolo, e quindi non abbiamo solamente la responsabilità di una performance, ma abbiamo anche la responsabilità di un collegamento spirituale con il nostro pubblico. In questo caso, sempre rispondendo a una di quelle domande poste precedentemente, le persone vanno a teatro perché vogliono conoscere queste leggende di Casac, vogliono immedesimarsi, vogliono in qualche modo pescare dentro di sé e andare a trovare il posto di questi miti e di queste leggende legate appunto alla spiritualità del territorio, alla mitologia della natura, allo spirito. Capite che è un processo intellettualmente molto più complicato e molto più impegnativo che semplicemente proporre una performance. In questo caso al pubblico stiamo chiedendo di entrare nello spirito di quella cultura.
Posso
Okay,
fare
thank
una
you very much.
domanda?
We have a question.
Can I
Yes.
ask you a question?
Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
La dico in italiano, Gabriel, oppure la dico direttamente in inglese? Non ti sento?
Vai in inglese, io in caso poi traduco.
I would love to ask you if there is a reason why it's kind of common, the fire as natural element in your plays.
Sure. Yes. You know, we have a form called Teyyam. It's a ritual form called Teyyam. Teyyam is a ritual form in north of Kerala being performed. And this form is basically, it's a theater form, basically. It's a theater. Teyyam is a theater. I would like to, somebody, maybe just when I speak, I will show you a bit of this form called Teyyam. In our traditional theater, fire always been seen as very central element in theatrical experience. It's an element that can actually make multiple meaning. A fire can be a metaphor for purification, a fire for a metaphor for destruction. So in here, for example, you know, we know that when we the fire always been very central element in Indian culture. For example, if a birth is always to do with the fire. You need to have a fire when we name day. You have a fire when you get married. You need a fire when you get your puberty. You need a fire when you get married. You need a fire when you die, because you need a fire. The body has to be cremated. So fire is a very central element. So in this particular novel, as I said, the ecology of this particular culture is about the relationship between the living and the dead. It's about the living and the dead. It's a conversation between living and the dead. There is a wonderful novel by Juan Rulfo, a Mexican, I think he's a Mexican writer, Juan Rulfo, whose amazing novel called Pedro Paramo. I don't know whether you have familiar with the Latin American writing. The Pedro Paramo is about the life of dead, meaning all the characters lives in graveyard. Then people talk from one grave to other, that they share memories, like Tadeusz Kantor's Dead Class. You know, Tadeusz Kantor's Dead Class, as you may know, this Polish director was contemporary of Grotowski, whose theater was called Theater of Death, right? And in his theater, he's always bring, dead people and to tell stories. Like in this particular novel, this is a conversation between dead and living. So in this memory being shared between two, the past being performed on the memorabilia of the dead. So the entire space is like an excavated, that you excavating the culture. When you built your own house sometime, when you ditch the soil, you make a foundation for building a house, and you may find a bone of somebody being buried. You might find a small toy of somebody being left there, a child shoe, maybe a hair of some other culture. And what you unearth is the reminiscence of the culture, bygone culture. So our life is like a palimpsest that we built, graveyard on top of a graveyard. When we walk, when we build a house, somebody lived before us. So this is the very, very, very interesting element, the premise of this particular novel. So I thought this fire as an element has to be brought in there. It is not just a fire, water, and the soil, and all the Panchabhuta, we call all the elements, all natural elements, the 5 elements, the air, earth, and water, and the fire. So all these elements come together in this particular performance.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I hope, you can translate to others if you want to.
Antea domandava ha notato che il fuoco è molto presente in questo allestimento, si domandava quale fosse la simbologia legata a questo elemento che è molto utilizzato in questo spettacolo. Il professore spiega che innanzitutto è un elemento culturale molto importante, specialmente nel Kerala, è una forma quasi rituale di teatro. Troviamo sempre il teatro nella tradizione ed è presente come elemento spirituale e trascendentale. Il fuoco è una metafora di purificazione oltre che di distruzione per natura, è presente in moltissimi riti come il funerale e il matrimonio ed è un elemento simbolo e chiave per poter comprendere la cultura indiana. In questa circostanza, in questo spettacolo, invece ci spiega che rappresenta il legame tra vivi e morti ed è fondamentalmente simboleggia la conversazione tra questi 2 mondi. Faceva un po' di esempi, tra i quali un romanzo messicano che parla proprio di questo legame tra la vita e la morte, e ha parlato di tutta una scuola di teatro dedicata a questo argomento che si chiama Teatro della Morte. Specifica in tutte le culture del mondo, è importantissimo il dialogo tra il mondo dei vivi e quello dei morti, ed è come se ogni ricordo fosse per noi un paletto, una pietra miliare, ma forse anche una pietra funebre, perché una volta che un avvenimento importante della nostra vita succede è come se morisse andando avanti, e quindi è come se ogni esperienza della nostra vita fosse un cimitero fatto di queste lapidi che rappresentano i ricordi che dopo essere successi appunto muoiono e vanno a formare il cimitero della nostra vita, un susseguirsi di ricordi che dopo muoiono. Ricorda inoltre anche l'importanza nella cultura indiana dei 5 elementi, e quindi ci riconduciamo al fuoco molto presente nello spettacolo, come anche tutti gli altri elementi, l'aria, l'acqua, eccetera.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now let me ask this very question. Now, after talking about the space very elaborately, I spoke about how we conceive this space, how I came to this idea of making a space as an excavation ground where a large number of people gathered around this space to see the stories, to witness the life of this very people. So what is this materiality of space I'm talking about? In the proscenium arch theater, you construct an illusion, right? In a proscenium theater, we construct an illusion. That illusion requires a buffer space between the audience and the actor space, as you don't want to reveal the actual mechanisms behind the illusionary space that you have created, right? Distance between the actual performative space and the audience space, because you don't want to reveal the mechanism of that illusionary space that you have created. But the work, what I do, I won't normally, you won't find much of illusion. If there is a truck, a real truck comes, or not a cardboard truck, the elevated structure on which an actor stands, the soil in which a performer buries oneself, or the fire enriching the actor, or the food being cooked or eaten are all real. If it is illusionistic, then you tell the people this indeed is illusion. Theater is an illusion that we create in front of you. This is not real. Nobody gets killed in theater. The moment real blood is drawn from your body as an actor, then theater stops right there. Can you translate that?
Ok, torniamo a parlare dello spazio scenico e di come sono arrivato nel corso della mia esperienza a sviluppare questa mia idea di spazio scenico. Torniamo al concetto della materialità. Nel teatro tutto è un'illusione, si costruisce un'illusione. Come? Attraverso un mutuo accordo tra pubblico e attori. Questo accordo fisicamente si stringe all'interno dello spazio scenico preposto. Nel mio lavoro raramente troverete quell'elemento di illusione. Cerca di integrare perfettamente tutti gli elementi dello spettacolo per cercare al massimo di eliminare questo elemento. Facciamo un esempio: se c'è un camion, quel camion rimane lì. Se c'è del cibo, quel cibo verrà mangiato sul serio, non si farà finta di mangiarlo. In questo modo togliamo l'elemento di illusione e cerchiamo di avvicinare molto di più la performance alla realtà. Ovviamente, se si deve mettere in scena un'uccisione, l'attore non morirà veramente, ci si aiuterà con l'utilizzo per esempio di sangue scenico o di una particolare regia. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So now, so that is a premise. So that's what we is talking about. As I said, no one gets killed in theater. The moment the real blood is drawn from your body as an actor, then theater stops right there. It becomes something else. It becomes maybe live art or performance art, which is altogether a different genre of art. The line between performance art, live art, and theater is beginning to thin, and piece of work like Dark Things is somewhere in between, right? I have shared this video with you, and I'll want to show a bit more of that production if you have not seen it. That the thin line between theater and performance art that I was talking about coming into a merge. And I want to show this particular work to discuss about the other element, the materiality and the object dramaturgy of Dark Things. But first you play me to translate that, and I'll show that.
Vediamo dunque come, continuando il concetto a teatro, non muore mai nessuno davvero, c'è sempre l'aiuto di un mezzo che può indirizzare il pubblico a capire che quel personaggio sta morendo in quel momento. Capite che la linea tra performance e installazione, arte, realtà è veramente sottilissima. Questi elementi però si vanno spesso a mescolare nelle performance, anche attraverso lo studio della drammaturgia dello spazio e la drammaturgia dell'oggetto. Volevamo adesso proporre qualche esempio, penso voglia farci vedere ancora una reference video.
Thank you. So I want to show a bit of this Dark Things. Have you seen this play, some of you? Gabriel, any idea?
We can't see your screen, unfortunately.
No, I have shared a video with Barbara. And
no,
have you seen this play I shared? Some of you may have taken.
Oh yes, no? Avete avuto l'occasione di vedere il video che ha inviato il professore per mail?
Io l'ho visto.
Some of them, right?
Yes, some of them.
Okay, I'll show you a little bit of that. Because I will talking about it.
Vediamone un pezzettino insieme così capiamo tutti di che cosa stiamo parlando.
I hope you can see the video. Share screen.
should dark gold shadow forest on fire. Oh, shadow. Man, jump next, come talk for like a shadow, like a shadow.
Fixer is the name. Fixer is the name.
I am a polyfiller, a smoother.
I am a polyfiller, a smoother. I'm a gorgeous sheep.
I offer you the following three: life, meaning, revenge.
I offer you the following three: life, meaning, revenge. For the right price, I will rearrange your past to suit the present. I'll even buy your dreams.
I will even buy your dreams. I decide how many to fit in on my boat. A liver can get you into Italy. For a kidney, I will free you onto Spain.
A liver can get you into Italy. For a kidney, I will free you onto Spain. Gold up front, liver up front.
Gold up front, liver up front. And it will determine the quality of the boat.
And it will determine the quality of your boat. Can you swim? Or do you prefer a meatloaf?
It is preferable that you are young and healthy. Boat. I make the boat float or sink. Money up front.
If a sea is to be crossed, I make the boat float or sink. Money up front. I take golden teeth, actual gold, toxic waste, metal and cash in exchange for women, children, and even bits of their bodies.
I take actual gold, golden teeth, toxic waste, metal and cash in exchange for women and children, and even bits of their bodies. I'm fearless next to battlefields, close to where heat shortages, unwanted in boardrooms.
I'm fearless next to battlefields, close to where heat shortages, unwanted in boardrooms. But I will fix your cracks in the shadow.
But I will fix your cracks in the shadow.
But I will fix your cracks in the shadow.
But I will fix your cracks in the shadow.
But I will fix your cracks in the shadow.
And an enormous presence in the shade.
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 I curse you! I curse you! You fixers, polyfillers, smootherers, who move people like objects and then they drown in the sea. I curse you! Scoundrels, smugglers, who even sell the children's body parts. I curse you! You capitalism's tonic, the new Viagra, who offer water for the fires of the hell. I curse you.
I don't know if and when this message will reach you. I don't know where I am anymore. I'm a statistic, one of 12 million who fled. I dream of home, where there are no clinics left, no schools, no fields to plow, no masters to pay a wage. They ask us if we are loyalists or surgeons. was a teacher. I taught English. I have some savings, some dollars. I have the relic of a darning egg from my father and the loom comb from my mother. I have a cell phone. I speak with my brother in Turkey. He has crossed. I speak with my aunt in Austria. My wife is safe for now in Damascus. They say for a few dollars we can get her over here. They can get her and me on a boat over to Greece and then overland to Austria. Every day, somebody here calls me ungrateful. They say here we have heaters, blankets. What more can you want? Then I dream of Europe and its huge jails. Austria can never be home.
जानना है तुझको? 8 घंटे से टट्टी में अपनी माँ चुदा रहा था मैं। कितने मिले? 400। भैंचोद हमारा लूज पॉइंट ही यही है, हमारी जात और गरीबी। 13 साल का था जब बाप ले गया था अपने साथ पहली बार। दारू पिलाई और बोला घुस। अकल थी नहीं, घुस गया। तब से घुसा हुआ हूं। बाल पक गए मेरे 24 की उम्र में ही। ये लिखो तुम, तुम्हारी टट्टी की बांस अटक गई है मेरी नाक में और नाखूनों में भी, और उन्हीं हाथों से मैं खाना खाता हूं। खाते क्या हो? क्या जो इतना हकते हो? तुम्हारी टट्टी साफ करते करते हर महीने 8-10 लोगों की डेथ हो जाती है। सुना है सरकारी कर्मचारियों को तो मास्क, बूट्स ये सब मिलने लगा है आजकल। हमारा ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। वो भोसड़ी का कॉन्ट्रैक्टर रस्सा, बाल्टी, फावड़ा ये सब देकर बोलता है कि घुस के करो सब कुछ, साथ में दारू भी देता है। एक पौवा सस्ता पड़ता होगा ना एक मास से। बस गटर में सीधे उतर जाओ। सबसे पहले लट्टू में धागा लपेट कर नाले की गहराई नाप लो, और सेफ्टी के लिए माचिस जला के देखो। माचिस जलेगी तो सांस ले पाओगे अंदर। फट भी सकता है अगर कोई खतरनाक गैस हुई तो। मैंने एक ऐसी भी मौत देखी है जहां बस नाले में झांका ही था और गैस खींच ले गई अपने अंदर। गाजियाबाद के पास किसी एसिड की फैक्ट्री के बाहर का नाला था। मैंने बोला था कि रुक जा, मैं जाता हूं अंदर, लेकिन वो माना नहीं। जब उसकी बॉडी बाहर निकाली तो उसका चेहरा और छाती जल चुके थे। बहुत दिनों तक उसकी डेथ अपने सर पर ले घूमा मैं, बहुत दिनों तक। बहुत रिक्स है इस काम में, बहुत तरीके हैं मरने के। इसकी तो लिस्ट बना ही लो। दारू ज्यादा पी के गए तो फिसलने का डर। कभी कभी तो नाला इतना चौड़ा होता है कि कनाट प्लेस से घुसोगे और डेड बॉडी सीधा जाके सीमा पर में निकलेगी। और काम भी कहाँ होता है जहां ये सरकारी कर्मचारी घुसेंगे नहीं। गैर कानूनी सीवेज साफ करता हूं। बांस से ठोक के ब्लॉक खोलो, तब जाके ये गैर कानूनी टट्टी कानूनी टट्टी में मिलती है। तब कौन देखता है ये गैर कानूनी कानूनी? सब मिल जाता है जमुना जी में जाके। अब ये काम आता है तो यही करूंगा। शादी हो जाए, बच्चे हो जाए, तब देखेंगे, उनको पढ़ाऊंगा। लेकिन तब तक के लिए आपको यही मिलूंगा मैं, आपके कचरे के बीच। कभी तो शर्मिंदा होगा ऊपर वाला भी। यही सोचता हूं मैं नाले में घुसने से पहले कि कभी तो उसे भी शर्म आएगी, या फिर वो भी तुम्हारी तरह बेशर्म ही होगा। भगवान भी तो तुम्हारा ही है।
I will, I know that, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I just want to show a little bit longer this video, because then you get a sense of the way the space has been conceived and the way in which the objects get manipulated in this space, you know. Because the last work I'll be showing, we talk about a little bit more about this work and take some questions. So I just show you the one more last bit about the the dream of a hammer sequence, then I will come to you, okay?
Vi voglio mostrare ancora un altro pezzettino perché...
Yeah, please carry on.
Sorry. Perché penso che questi video veramente siano un ottimo esempio per discutere di tutti gli elementi di cui abbiamo già parlato, cioè dell'utilizzo dello spazio scenico in relazione agli oggetti. Guardiamo un'altra sequenza e poi ne parliamo insieme.
Ok. Yes, that was a long video, but I wanted to watch it in most part of it, so you get a bit of sense of the scale of that performance and how the space been constructed. The gallery of this particular performance is very similar to the Legends of Gazak. This entire performance can be also watched as about 2,000 people, which is actually a U-shaped gallery with a large gallery like in a stadium. So this entire space is almost like in the size of a football ground. It's very, very large space. So that backdrop of factory, it's about 80 feet wide and about 40 feet high. It's very, very big space. A projection screen is very, very large projection screen. It's almost like hit on your face when you see the image, when you sit there. I just want to kind of brief you a little bit about few things, few decision making that took place there. The one is that the decision about using the hammer. The bringing the hammer, in the Dream of the Hammer, initially we made a hammer out of a bamboo. I'm talking about the materiality aspect of it, okay? And this we were thinking, what will happen to the hammer? We thought about making a hammer, and we thought industrial fan can blow and destroy the hammer. We thought about this hammer can be made of a paper pulp. Then we used it in the space, and we eventually found the decision that we should use the metal hammer, which can actually showcase the materiality of the iron. That is important because, as we know that the iron is a byproduct of industrialization. I mean, it's not a byproduct, but the iron, the invention of iron, the way that what you can do with the iron is very important role. It played the industrialization. So the kind of the world which we see now, whether it's China or early Soviet Union or US, the entire capitalist regime, we're talking about the industrialization played a major role, where the human beings become small creatures in front of these large machineries, where they're running around like little small creatures. So the scale of this large machinery was very important to be brought in to a performance site. So initially when we performed this play was initially made in an industrial space, in a factory in Delhi. So in North Delhi, the actual space was a real factory. A factory the way you used to make cement factory, So it was a real backyard of the factory where the real performance took place. So the gallery we built, and the people were looking in the backyard of the large cement factory, where this entire machinery, trucks comes and goes, and this large cranes and come and take it up. So this is the built scenography when we moved this play for international festival, and this is the particular video we watched. But the actual performance actually took place, the primary show, the premiere of the show was in a large factory space in Delhi. So conceiving this idea of telling the story of these laborers, these factory workers, they tell their stories to us during their coffee break or their loo break, toilet break. And they have a bits and pieces of stories. They can never tell the complete story because when the siren comes, they have to run back to their workspace. That is the reason there is no complete stories. So only bits and pieces of stories of different kinds of people. People who cross the river, cross the sea to go to Europe, to Italy, to Spain, to Germany, to Austria, to find a new life. For all the immigrants who cross to find their life, a settled life elsewhere. And so the stories of these laborers and factory workers who come in a marginalized situation outside of the mainstream society has been kind of portrayed in a way that it's the stories of small fragments of stories of factory workers. They're trying to tell us during their coffee break because they have only 10 minutes of time to tell it. Then they have to run back the workspace. So that's the idea of the story being told behind the backyard of the actual factory. You can explain that.
Sure am. All right. Un video un po' lungo, ma il professore ci teneva che lo vedeste tutto. La prima cosa che vuole farvi notare è la portata di questo allestimento in termini di scala, di grandezza, di dimensioni del progetto. Fate conto che l'area performativa era grande all'incirca quanto un campo da calcio, con uno schermo enorme dove venivano proiettate queste immagini. Voleva invece soffermarsi su alcune decisioni che riguardano l'aspetto materico di cui parlavamo precedentemente, prendendo in esame la sequenza del martello e perché è stato scelto questo oggetto e di che cosa era fatto questo martello e come riconduciamo la materia ad una simbologia. Nella fattispecie parliamo di un martello di metallo. La materialità del ferro è molto importante. Il metallo è un simbolo di industrializzazione, della brama dell'uomo, rappresenta il regime capitalista all'interno del quale l'uomo diventa come un piccolo burattino. Per questo motivo le dimensioni dell'allestimento erano così mostruosamente grandi, così imponenti, e l'intento era quello di fare sembrare gli attori sulla scena il più piccoli possibile, appunto schiacciati da questa idea di questo capitalismo rappresentato appunto dall'oggetto del martello. Il concept molto industriale è stata assolutamente una scelta. L'intento invece qual era? Quello di raccontare la storia di queste persone, questi lavoratori, questi immigrati, ognuno di loro con una difficoltà e ognuno di loro alla ricerca di una condizione migliore, di una vita migliore. Questi personaggi che siano lavoratori, che siano emigranti, sono personaggi che vivono di stenti e che vogliono migliorarsi. In questo modo il racconto utilizza diversi stralci della vita di tutti questi personaggi, quasi come se loro volessero raccontarci la loro storia in un momento di pausa, in un momento di stop, dice il professore, durante la pausa caffè dal lavoro.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to conclude this session with how these instances from my own practice help to illustrate the choices that a theatre maker needs to make in this complex dramaturgical process of weaving things together and making meaning. It's a very complex process of putting together things and making meaning. It requires us as makers to approach theatre making like a puzzle. And a lot of the making process is about solving these problems creatively and with imagination. What the audience receives is what they see in the end. They don't necessarily know what we have gone through in order to make all of this possible. Their choices are what we scenographers and directors offer them to choose from. Therefore, the right choice of a scenographer, director, of making meaningful decisions is what leads to making a meaningful performance experience possible. And that is often negotiated through various factors of material presence, spatial configurations, objects, and bodily articulations. Do you like to translate that as my end note?
Yes, thank you. Vorrei capire come può la mia esperienza darvi spunti utili per la vostra carriera. Voglio dirvi che alla fine della fiera, alla fine dei conti, ciò che il pubblico vede è quello che il pubblico riceve. Spesso il pubblico non è al corrente delle scelte fatte all'interno del team creativo e dunque il compito dello scenografo è estremamente importante perché il suo compito è quello di curare l'aspetto non soltanto visuale ma esperienziale del pubblico nel dettaglio per la fruizione della performance.
Okay, all right, let me switch on my video. All right. Now, we have some more time, I suppose, right? We will finish by 6 o'clock, 3 hours, right? Right. So we have another 40 minutes almost, right? Okay. Let us use this time for a little bit of conversation. You may have a lot of questions, each of you. At least if you ask me one question each, then I could actually answer their questions and come up with more propositions Of course, there are more work to show. I just show you a fraction of my work. But if I'll have more questions, maybe I can bring some of other works to discuss about some of your concerns which may have arrived after listening to me for these 2 hours of time.
Chiaramente il professore avrebbe dell'altro materiale da presentarvi, da farvi vedere, ci ha mostrato soltanto una piccola porzione dei suoi lavori, ma vuole utilizzare questi ultimi 40 minuti invece per avere un confronto con voi e magari da qualche domanda che sicuramente vi sarete posti analizzando il lavoro presentato fino ad ora, magari nascono spunti per mostrare dell'altro. Partiamo dunque con la Q&A, quindi buona settimana.
Io avrei una domanda.
We have a question.
Okay, I try in English, okay?
Perfect.
Okay, you are before a scenographer or a director? What you feel, you respect this?
My question is whether I feel myself as primarily a scenographer or a director.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think myself, it's a very interesting question. But I think that, I call myself as a theater maker, rather than a scenographer director. Because, the way I imagine the material is very scenographically. When I write my dramaturgy, because I often write my work, and when I write it, what I write scenography rather than anything else. I write what is actually will be happening in the space, So I call myself as a theater maker, but at the same time, I think that the kind of theater I imagine or I want to see is a theater of scenography. So I thought that making of theater, it's combined the process of three components. One is that writing and designing and directing. So I can't really imagine myself I'm doing away with any of this thing. Although I have worked as an independent dramaturg, I have written things for other directors. I have also worked as a professional scenographer. I worked with the directors, but I also do all these three together. But so I can call myself a theater maker, which is a kind of it's a combination of all these three. And one more thing, I trained as a director academically before I trained as a scenographer. So I trained as a director before I trained as a scenographer.
Allora, Francesco chiedeva, abbiamo visto la poliedricità del professore, se il professore si considera prima un regista o uno scenografo. Inizio dalla fine, ha detto: se dobbiamo parlare di linguaggio accademico sono prima un regista e poi uno scenografo, perché mi sono formato accademicamente prima come regista e poi come scenografo, ma in realtà mi definisco un uomo di teatro, un theater maker, dice il professore, quindi un uomo di teatro. Quando scrive le drammaturgie il professore non scrive soltanto le parole che reciteranno gli attori, scrive anche cosa succede realmente nello spazio scenico. Il tipo di teatro che immagina è un teatro dove la scenografia ha un ruolo centrale, importantissimo. Detto ciò, cerca sempre, quando cura, e dalla scrittura all'allestimento e alla regia, cerca di seguire il lavoro passo passo, ma gli è anche capitato di lavorare soltanto come drammaturgo in situazioni in cui le sue pièce erano messe in scena da altri registi o altri scenografi, e viceversa gli è capitato di mettere in scena pièce non scritte da lui, ma semplicemente di cui ha curato il design da scenografo.
I'm waiting for the next question.
La prossima domanda?
No more question. Erika Sarava, what's your question?
Erika, ti sta chiamando in causa.
Sì, ho visto. Non so, in questo momento ci rifletto un attimo, perché ho tante cose, ma voglio focalizzare.
Her brain is full right now. She's just analyzing all the
It's just
stuff.
analyzing. What about Alessandra Gitter?
Alessandra?
Yeah? Or
È molto
Sara?
interessante il lavoro che ha svolto. In particolare non ho una domanda, ma più una curiosità. Quando appunto pensa da regista, prima ancora di scenografo, l'idea da che cosa nasce? Da un approccio alla scenografia o da un approccio alla regia?
Posso farti ti chiedo, Alessandra, intendi che nel caso in cui scrive, quando scrive lui le sue opere, intendi?
Sì, sì.
Okay, the question is, when you write for the theatre and you obviously work on the direction of it all,
yeah.
do you think more as a director or as a designer, as a scenographer? I think she's referring to the actual thing. I mean, the decisions you have to make when you start.
See, you know what I do is the process of making is that for a scenographer, when the scenographer becomes the director and the writer, the process is a little different here. First of all, when I started making the process, I would never begin with the written text, right? So I work with the space or an object or an idea. As I said, when I was working on Legends of Gasak, the play based in that village with a lot of fire, there was no text, there was ideas. So, and the text was evolving in a daily basis. So the script, in fact, evolved towards the end of the process. Only 1 or 2 days prior to the premiere of the show, actors got the script in their hands. But by that time, they have all learned their lines. They have all know what they're doing. So the script is more of like a manuscript. It's more of like than when you go to shopping. When you go to a grocery shop, you take a little paper in your hand, right? 1 kilogram of lentils, one kilogram of potato, onion. That's equals to that only, the script meaning. It is not really a script, you know, it's more of like a script is like a, you know, a reference point that, you know, you remember with you. So the performance actually is rather more of like an embodied process that actors and technicians, the team together weave it, like we weave it, like we build a house. You know, when we build a house, there are different kind of people involved in it. There's some construction workers, the metal workers, brick workers, painters, electricians, plumbers, the people who fix the roof, you know, all kind of people involved. So similarly, in this process, writers, musician, costume designer, lighting designer, actors, the people who cook food for the people, all these people part of the team. So there is nothing actually lead in the front. For example, I said, I mean it what I said. For example, an object can resolve a problem. An object can resolve a problem. A fire can resolve a dramatical problem, not necessarily a text. So text comes maybe after. For example, we were imagining how to resolve a problem of, you know, the particular hammer, you know. So this particular resolving the problem of particular hammer, how far we can, you know, raise the hammer. If 50 feet, 60 feet, how big machine can come to this performance space? How big crane can arrive? Only with that decision making, with trying a crane actually coming through that gate and pick it, we had to think about various things. Initially, when we perform in this play, for example, in a large, where I told you about factory space, and this crane is really heavy, and we had to negotiate the people who own the factory that the particular road that the crane come through won't break down, because we don't want the crane will go down to the road, because the road is very narrow road. So we have to negotiate with the council that the crane has to come through it. Only after negotiation, only once we have the approval that crane can actually come and arrive in the crane in the rehearsal space, then only we took a decision that crane can actually lift the hammer. But what does that action really mean is that a crane lift, a large crane, it's a machine body of an industrial object, a gigantic crane that can take the hammer out of the hands of the laborers, and that can disappear into the sky. And the laborers looking up the sky and they say it's gone. And the siren comes, they run back. They run back to where they belong, the working space. So that is a political, as a statement, whether it's a Soviet Union or China, what happened to the dream of the hammer? So that large machinery taking away the hammer from the hands of the laborers, and this poor Chinese laborer who's sitting in an apple factory and making gadgets with the diaper, because they don't have a loo break. So they have to wear a diaper for all women, 20 hours of the time they work. And what happened there is that women, when they try, then they work and work, they sometimes jump out of the window from the 14-story building. And what the Chinese factories did, they put a net by the window. They don't change the work, the nature of the work. Instead, they put a net outside of the window. So a laborer jump out of the window for killing themselves. They don't kill themselves, they only land in the net.
I will translate that now, thanks.
Yes.
Allora no, dice il processo in realtà è molto diverso anche dalla domanda che hai posto, è un po' più complicato. Comincia tutto con un'idea, quindi non è neanche né un approccio da regista né un approccio da scenografo. Comincia esplorando lo spazio dato in relazione all'idea, non comincia mai dal testo, comincia con un workshop durante il quale esplora spazio e oggetto e soprattutto le idee che hanno fatto scaturire questo nuovo allestimento, questo nuovo progetto. Da quello poi successivamente prenderà vita il testo, ma la primissima cosa su cui lui si basa sono le idee. Dice il copione è un po' la lista della spesa in un certo senso, una sorta di post-it, un reminder. Dà molta importanza sicuramente all'aspetto concettuale e spirituale di ogni sua scelta. La cosa più importante è cercare di imprigionare quanta più vita nella idea che si sviluppa durante tutto il workshop. Tutte le maestranze e la crew coinvolti nell'allestimento hanno tutti lo stesso scopo, cioè cercare il più possibile di avvicinare l'idea alla realtà. Ad esempio, un oggetto può risolvere un problema sulla scena, non deve essere necessariamente una battuta o un attore. Il fuoco, come dicevamo prima nello spettacolo che descrivevamo prima, può risolvere un problema. Nel caso del martello è il concetto che racconta, non tanto le parole, le battute che l'attore va ad esprimere, alle quali solitamente, come abbiamo detto, lui arriva dopo. Se sceglie di rappresentare in uno spazio performativo particolare, questa scelta andrà chiaramente a influenzare tutto il processo. E faceva un esempio: se io ho scelto quel determinato spazio scenico ma ho problemi con i proprietari che non me lo vogliono affittare, o se è uno spazio pubblico problemi col comune che non me lo vuole dare, tutto questo processo e questo rincorrere quella determinata scelta andrà ad avere un peso emotivamente sulla scelta di quel determinato luogo. Quindi capite, è tutta una grande macchina di scelte che si influenzano le une con le altre. Per usare la metafora del martello, come già detto prima, non puoi disconnettere l'idea del martello dalla metafora stessa, ed è quella la cosa più importante. In questo senso il martello, come qualsiasi altra idea concettuale, che è una ripetizione del concetto, la stessa cosa di idea, in questo senso il martello è concettualmente più importante delle battute che vengono dette, perché racchiude il motivo e la metafora di tutto il lavoro.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say here is that you know, it's a process. It's a process of various components comes together and the text appears. So if there was no decision making on the crane, there won't be a scene of a crane lifting the hammer. So the meaning of that sequence won't be the same way what we see now. So, and this happens all the time. The text emerges from a process of making with the various kinds of people. And it's often happens towards the end of the process, what we will be actually having. As I said, it's like a construction of the house, you know, or it's a collective artists together painting a large canvas. Yeah.
Quello che vuole sottolinearci è un processo, è fatto di tantissime componenti, ogni decisione porterà ad un'altra decisione. Se non avessi avuto modo di vivere tutte le cose che ho vissuto, che mi sono capitate, non avrei fatto quella determinata scelta e quindi non avrei partorito quella determinata idea.
I wondered whether you made drawings we saw, such as the big smoking chimneys, for example, which are interspersed with the performance, or whether you had them made by a graphic designer. And another question, what connection do these images have with the public? Do they have the function of placing us in a precise scenario? These are my questions for you.
The first question, I would answer that, well, of course, I work with the graphic designers. Also, I draw images as a designer. You know, I'm trained to illustrate things, but I do work, you know, in a large project like this, you cannot do everything. So as a scenographer, although I'm a scenographer, I call myself a scenographer, I also work with the various designers within one project. There may be one set designer, there may be one graphic designer, and various elements, and I maybe oversee the entire work I do. In the terms of images, what we create, well, you know, I believe personally that as an artist, the primary audience of a work of art is the local people. You know, if I produce one work, if I work in a village, as I was telling about Legends of Gasak, the story of the villagers, I think that my primary audience is the villagers, the people who live surrounding place. These are the very audience. Then only, you know, the work become national or international. So every image I create, it's very local. It has to be local. In the material, it has to be local, because the primary stakeholders of this work is the very local people. I think this is the case for any work of art. You know, a film, a particular cinema, an Italian cinema, is precisely made for the surrounded people. When we watch this work of art, maybe it's universal. We can maybe identify this work with us. That's because of this work may have the potential to cross the boundaries, cross the borders, and because they deal with the human problem. But the thing is that the primary audience, the first audience, I think the people surrounding around them. When you read the John Saramago or Blindness or Gabriel Garcia Marquez, we know that Marquez primarily written for Colombians or Mexican readers, because the social political reality he portrays the people just around him. But we can understand it. We can communicate with this because he deals with a very human problem. But similarly, as answering your question, every image which I create or attempt to create is a very much close to the people around it. But there is a problem actually. I often found a problem. For example, a play like Dark Things. This play was made in Delhi, in a city, in an urban space. And the urban problem is very particular problem. And this very play, we took it to another place, into Kerala. And in Kerala, the people in that particular small town, they found this play is a bit alien to them, because the problem what they face is not this problem. It's not, doesn't mean that they don't enjoy the work. But what I meant is that if I take the Legends of Gasak from Kerala to Delhi, Delhi audience might have the problem of identifying the problem I discuss in the work. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Traduco. Allora, le immagini, allora parlavamo le immagini proiettate, si chiedeva a Geraldina se erano disegnate da lui o se invece collabora con un grafico. Sono disegnate da lui, ma gli capita spesso di collaborare con i grafici perché chiaramente cura tantissimi aspetti dell'allestimento. Come artista invece, dice il professore, io credo che il principale pubblico di una composizione, di un'opera d'arte, di uno spettacolo siano le persone del luogo, le persone autoctone. Il tuo lavoro artistico deve poter risuonare nella coscienza e nella cultura di un determinato e specifico popolo, di una società in particolare. Se focalizzi e inquadri bene il pubblico e se il tuo lavoro è forte, avrà una risonanza non solo nei cuori e nelle coscienze delle persone per il quale questo spettacolo è scritto, ma riuscirà a uscire da quella realtà e da quella società avendo anche una risonanza appunto fuori da questi territori. Per esempio, faceva questo esempio, l'allestimento che abbiamo visto poc'anzi è un allestimento andato in scena in uno spazio urbano della città di Delhi. Spostando l'allestimento in un'altra zona, ha dovuto rivedere completamente il concept, completamente l'allestimento. Perché? Perché lo stesso spettacolo allestito in un luogo diverso e visto da persone diverse assume significati e metafore diverse.
Ok.
Io, se posso, con l'aiuto di Gabriel, volevo chiedere, all'inizio ha parlato del concetto di materia e di materialità e mi chiedevo se può approfondire un po' questa differenza, questo concetto.
Could you translate that?
All right, so a second, please. You talked about the difference between material and materiality, yeah? And if you could just explain that a little bit more, please.
Okay, so when I was talking about the Legends of Gasak would be an example, the materiality of that space. I was talking about, you know, the material we talk about, the soil is a material, the wood is a material, or some metal, you know, or a wood is a material. When we kind of talk about material as a, you know, to talk about the nuances of the materials, right? Materiality of the space is a bit more, it's a bit more philosophical when we talk about space, for example. So materiality of that space, I was talking about the, you know, the land as excavation ground. Is it really excavation ground? Is it really a place where people come out and tell us stories? So it's not really. What you see there is a water, soil, fire, and that's all materials being used to tell the story of this particular space. But the materiality of this space meaning is a bit more philosophical, right? So the space we're talking about, for example, you know, the Legends of Gasak, this space, the materiality of that space is that, you know, the kind of essence, the kind of feel you get out of the materials which we used. So two different things, the kind of feel, the kind of a metaphorical, philosophical feel what we get because of the particular material you used. That is a kind of more, when we talk about materiality of the space. The material is a bit more easy term to understand because we can say that what is this particular things are made of, what the material is made of. But materiality is about, when you speak about the space, it is, or an object, it's more than that. It's more of a philosophy, that feel of that particular space. And the feel of that particular space is a little difficult to explain, because the feel of that space, when you look at a space like a factory space, all these things can take place there. The feel of that space is that what we call the materiality of that space. The kind of feel you get, because of the certain material decisions you make. You know what I mean? So there's two different things here.
La differenza tra materiale e materialità dello spazio è, diciamo, molto filosofica. Quando parliamo di materiale, naturalmente facciamo riferimento ai comuni materiali. Il metallo è un materiale, il legno è un materiale. La materialità dello spazio è un concetto un po' più sottile, un po' più filosofico. Ti offre la possibilità di pensare all'essenza, al significato di quel determinato materiale, e quindi ci dà l'opportunità di riflettere sul perché abbiamo scelto quel determinato materiale nella nostra rappresentazione. Cosa racconta quel materiale dello spazio che abbiamo pensato? Che cosa si prova quando si vede un determinato spazio fatto di quel materiale? Quindi la domanda è perché, è l'aspetto concettuale della materia.
Grazie.
Thank you. Any other further questions?
Ci sono delle altre domande?
We have time.
We are almost arriving the time. You may know the time in Italy. I'm in Kerala. So if you think this, we have arrived 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 to 6, right?
Yes.
You have another class today after 6 o'clock, or are you going home and drink a beer?
Ha detto il concetto del tempo in Italia, so che è un po' relativo, ma alle 6 dovete andare, avete altri impegni, altre cose, o vi fate una birra e avete finito?
Yeah, maybe beer.
Maybe beer.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful lesson today. Just the contrast in this course. Some teachers talk about the importance to start with the text of the tragedy, in this case Antigone. But it's interesting your opposite thing. Your approach is, yes, maybe it's a scenographical approach to start with text and not directional approach.
Maybe. Thank you. Anyway, I'm happy to meet you all, and I'm glad that it made some sense. It's a very short session, you may look at some more work. There are works you may be able to watch online on YouTube or Vimeo if you search, or you may be able to read articles and chapters and books. So thank you very much. Shall we wrap it up then today? Time for a beer?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sivaraman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.